Whether the fight over this happens this year or next year, I think it's worth getting into the nature of the fight, who will be on each side. I know you've looked into the opposition, that what the nature of the opposition will be, not just within Congress, but outside groups. And Marcos, I think you've done work on comparing immigration and the natural constituency that exists for that issue versus healthcare and some other issues, and how that the difference between the debate we've seen unfold over the last year that's been ugly and messy and sad over healthcare versus what the potential is for immigration. So, Andrea, why don't you?
Well, obviously, I have a lot of experience with dealing with the opposition, and I think I want to start, first of all, with the organized groups who are rallying behind opposing immigration reform. And I think in this sense, maybe Marcos and I diverge, maybe we don't, but I actually think there's great division within the teabagger movement. If you look at Dick Armey, the head of FreedomWorks, who's organizing these tea parties, he actually opposed the language in the Republican purity test on immigration, which was opposed to what they call amnesty, what I just described as earned legalization. And I think without that big support and sort of the mastermind behind this issue, I think you'll see a little bit more of division. And the groups that are going to be driving this are part of this network, and we call it the Nativist Lobby. And most of them have the same founder. His name is John Tanton. And they sort of boil down to three different groups. And the first one is the Federation for American Immigration Reform. And they are designated by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group. And they have a lot of members, and they are mobilizing them. Another group is Numbers USA. They're a little bit more careful than the Federation for American Immigration Reform, but they are against immigration. They tend, and I want to point this out because they tend to use more progressive arguments against immigration reform. So they cite the environment. They've often stated that immigrants are responsible for climate change. So they also, attribute to immigrants being responsible for traffic jams in California. So, I mean, they're really trying to sort of co-opt the progressive movement on this and try and make a case against immigration from a progressive standpoint, when I think most of us here on this stage know that that just isn't the case. And the last one is the Center for Immigration Studies, and they're sort of the Nativist Lobby's think tank. And they produce research, and if you look at their research, they present it as moderate, but you'll never find that any of their research has anything good to say about immigrants at all. So I think those three groups working together are going to be trying to influence the debate on this. I think looking on the Hill, I think the Sotomayor debate really points to where the bad guys are going to be on this. If you look at that debate, I think voting for the confirmation of Sotomayor was a very symbolic action. I mean, she's the first Latina justice to be on the Supreme Court, and supporting her was really symbolic for the Latino community. And as you saw, 9 Republicans did end up supporting her, in addition to Lieberman, an independent who, despite his views on healthcare, is actually quite good on immigration reform. But at the same time, you had Jeff Sessions raising a lot of smoke and all of his cronies. And there's also this other group in the House, which is the House Immigration Reform Caucus. It's made up of mostly Republicans. It was founded by Tom Tancredo, who has now left, and now it's headed by Brian Bilbray, who actually used to be a lobbyist for one of the groups I just mentioned. And Joe Wilson is a part of it. So you'll see a lot of the smoke in the House coming from that group as well.
Can I ask, is there anybody on the right that can dump in hundreds of millions of dollars in television ads, like they have on healthcare?
That's a case where I would be surprised if there is. Although, the Federation for American Immigration Reform does have a large constituency. But I think that constituency is very grassroots, and I don't think you're going to see the same sort of organized interest that we saw getting behind the anti-healthcare movement opposing immigration reform.
And the chamber is
in
support.
Yeah, they're part of the coalition. They're very active in the campaign. So.
But they won't put any money into it.
I mean, I can't speak for that.
Right. They didn't last time. But okay.
Well, yeah. So
I forgot the question, so I'm ask it again.
The the difference between the healthcare fight and the lack of the argument that there is a lack of a natural constituency there, and you know, comparing that to immigration.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems with the healthcare debate is that, you know, it devolves into sort of like, we got to help the poor, and it's never been a real political winner in our world, you know. When the debate was framed as in helping the middle class by keeping costs down, right, there was a lot more support. When it started becoming the cost control mechanism, such as the public option, when that went away, it became more of a let's subsidize healthcare for poor people, which is a public good, but it's a political loser. And the polls have shown that support has fallen for the healthcare bill in large part for that reason, because that's not a constituency that's very active, that organizes, that votes, and so on, right? It's a little different with immigration reform, because not just with the Latino community, which is obviously the fastest growing and will be a plurality by 2050, but also Asian groups, which are growing very rapidly, and there's other immigrant groups that are also part of this coalition. And we saw a couple years ago with the immigration marches that they're becoming more and more active, they're becoming more savvy in how to play this game. And there is correlation between supporting this group and electoral results in a way that you don't see with healthcare, right? I mean, this is the demographic that votes. It's a demographic that Bush won 40% in 2004. John McCain only got 28% in 2008. Karl Rove himself, George Bush's mastermind, understands that the long-term health of the Republican Party is in jeopardy if they cannot appeal to immigrant groups. And one of the things that I think people find surprising is that when you look at immigrant groups, those who are first generation, people who immigrated, were actually more likely to vote Republican in 2004 than second generation, third generation, right? And I have a theory about this. I don't know if it's true, but when you give the immigration oath, you know, you've got the picture of the president right in front of you, right? And you're basically swearing allegiance to this country. And you had George Bush there. And I think that from an emotional standpoint, you think that's a guy who's giving me the opportunity to be an American. That's powerful, right? So now suddenly you have a situation where it's, you know, it's going to be Obama, right? Which is going to be great for us. Republicans maybe not like it, but if there's a sense that Republicans are completely 100% opposed to this, they're going to suffer more in ways that it's going to be an electoral disaster for them. I mean, one more data point. I track at Daily Kos. I have a nonpartisan pollster, Research 2000. Every week we track approval ratings of the entire political party leadership, from Obama, Pelosi, John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party. And in the beginning of the year, if you look at the favorabilities among Latinos, and this is a massive 2,400 respondents every week, so that the Latino subsample is actually statistically valid. Beginning of the year, it was about
2009.
2009, I'm sorry, yeah. Republican Party had about a 29 to 30% approval rating, favorability rating among Latinos, right? In August of 2009, which was during the Sotomayor debate, it was 2% had favorable opinion of the Republican Party, 86% unfavorable. Today, it's back up to about 18% favorable, about 62% unfavorable. So sort of the shock of the Sotomayor hearings is sort of worn off, and Latinos are creeping up. They do this again, it's sort of like a double blow, right? You know, you got someone looking for like, well, maybe we'll give them a second chance, right? If they come out of this debate angry and xenophobic and racist and hateful, those numbers may come down and they may stay down. And like I said, the demographic trends are very clear. If Republicans lose Latinos, it's going to be very hard for them to win. 2010, tough year for Democrats, but moving forward, long term, to mid and long term, it's almost impossible for them to be electorally viable without a significant support for Latinos.